What's going on, guys? I'm Zach.
I'm Levi.
I'm Tariano.
And this is Blitz and Gigs, episode 10. All right, let's get straight to it.
NFL free agency is nearly upon us. We're in the unrestricted free agent phase, the trade phase as well. Zach, who's been the biggest winner of this stage of free agency for you?
I gotta say, I think the LA Rams have came out on top as far as restricted free agency goes. They were able to strike a deal with Matt Stafford, despite it looking like they weren't going to be able to retain him. I think that's huge. They were in the contender discussion last couple of years, I'd say, and bringing him back, I think they'll be still productive despite him getting old. And as of a couple minutes ago, they actually just signed Davante Adams to a 2-year deal. So I think him and Puka are going to be elite. Whatever the quarterback situation looks like the next couple of years, I think that they'll be productive as well. So got to give it to them. I think they're the biggest winners.
Tariano, what about you?
I would like to add on to what you just said. Well, not really add on, but kind of have my own thoughts. Davante Adams, that being a winning move for the Rams, I don't really see that as a win. I see that as a kind of waste of money. I think they could have gotten someone better that's not as expensive. Because Davante Adams in the past has been amazing, but Raiders in the last part of the Raiders, he wanted to get out, but he still was not doing enough. And then he goes to the Jets with a quarterback that he should have great chemistry with, and he still doesn't do anything.
So I will agree with you that he wasn't, as well as he should have played on the Raiders, but the final 7 weeks of the season with the Jets, he was fantasy wide receiver 1, wasn't he? He was extremely productive with Rodgers down the stretch. So I don't think it's an age thing with him. I think his play style as well, him being more of a technical guy, not really leaning on athleticism as much, I think he'll still be productive. And the fact that they were able to get him for $23 million a year when guys like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are making $36 million a year, I don't think $23 million is a bad price at all for a guy like that. I think he's still productive, but
yeah, I mean he's 31 or 32 years old. The way I see it, in his prime he was the best route runner in the NFL. Currently he's probably a top 5 route runner in the NFL. I think $23 million, he's capable of being a receiver 1 on a team like LA. Probably going to take that receiver 2 role so that they can incorporate the young guys like Puka. But truth be told, I don't hate the move at all. I don't know if the receiver was their biggest need, given that they're shipping off Cooper Kupp. But if you can get a pick for Cooper Kupp, get out of his contract, sign Davante to a contract, you're paying the same amount, getting the same amount of talent, and you gain a pick in the process.
I agree. So Tar, what do you think thus far has been the biggest winner for you?
I gotta go with the Bills.
All right.
Shocker.
Obviously.
Here.
Before the podcast, we were talking about it a little bit, and I thought we're winning, and number one. But the thing is, we're setting ourselves up for the future whenever free agency really starts. So it's even more so solidified my thought that we're setting ourselves up. I think in the end, by the end of the off season, we'll have made the best moves, right?
Would you say that the fact that they're cutting a guy like Von Miller and re-signing guys like Khalil Shakir and Greg Rousseau, younger crop of guys, signing them to big money, long-term deals, do you think that that's, a testament to them trying to get younger, trying to, make this team in contention for a long time to come? Is this a win-now move?
I think it's both a win-now move and a longevity move, because Von Miller, he needed to be gone. He's way too expensive for the production that he's giving.
Right.
Greg Rousseau, he's good now, and I think he's just going to get better, and he's not as expensive as someone like Von Miller. Now, whenever I say win now, if in free agency we get another edge rusher that is maybe a vet and more expensive, if we can free up some more cap space, that'll be win now, because then now we'll have 2 edge rushers, someone that can help Greg Rousseau get to the quarterback, apply some more pressure. You know what I mean?
My question to you is, the Bills were tagged to Myles Garrett big time prior to him getting this deal with Cleveland, just a few hours ago. Y'all were one of the leading teams to land him because that was, maybe a position of need for you guys. Instead, you let Vaughn go. You signed Greg Rousseau to this big deal. If that was a position of need for you guys, now you're getting really expensive there and losing talent. I mean, I know he's old, but is edge rusher still a need for you guys? Is that where you want to go round 1 in this year's draft? How do you feel about that?
I think that's the number one need. As far as, backfield, like, not backfield, but, like, you know what I mean? We have Terrell Bernard, we have Taylor Rapp, we have DeMar, who isn't the best, but he still does what he needs to do for the most part, right?
I think DeMar's looking to get a deal, though. Like, I think I've heard him linked to, like, the Steelers, get a bag over there. I don't know if he's a restricted free agent or how his contract looks like, but I've heard him rumored to go to other teams. But
I think in the end he'll stay with the Bills. I feel like he has too big of an attachment
He's
to
a
the
franchise
Bills.
guy for sure.
he is.
So I don't think that'll happen. I think we'll have to pay a little bit more for him, which I wouldn't really like, because like I said, he doesn't do as much as we'd want him to, but he still does enough. And I mean, we love DeMar, so
Better than we thought he was when he got that injury.
you were saying, making fun of me, like, oh, starting safety, DeMar, huh?
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed in his production prior to him stepping up this past season, but I'll give him credit there.
So, with corner, we need someone to fill in freaking Kyrie Elam and get him out and get someone else. And I think if we do that, we'll be fine. But number one is most definitely edge rusher, because, like I said, Greg Rousseau can't do everything. You saw how the Chiefs game went,
It was bad.
We had a lot of problems getting there, Offense-wise, everyone wants to say we could use some more receivers. Yes, we could, but I don't think it's our number one priority. I think if we get someone in the draft or get someone in free agency that's just a 1 year, kind of like Matt Collins was, I think that would be enough, as long as Don Kincaid steps up. Khalil Shakir is, he's going to do what he needs to do. Keon Coleman steps up. It's just a chemistry thing, I think. I think it was just we need more time for Josh to really have this chemistry with, Dalton and with Keon, and it'll be fine there, And if Cook leaves, we have Ray Davis. I know I don't think you think Ray Davis is
solid.
as good as James Cook, which I don't think so either. But I think he's good enough to the point where he'll get the job done, and it won't be like, oh, it's so clear that they're missing Cook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm confident in our offense, mostly confident in our defense. Edge rusher is just the one thing that we absolutely need.
Okay.
I would agree. I think the Rousseau contract was a big move for the Bills, just for the sake of you're extending the life of your younger defensive pieces. You're willing to let go of the older ones. I mean, last year we saw it when they let go of Micah Hyde, who's now entering retirement. I think it's time for the Bills defense to move on from the 2010s, truth be told. And I think McDermott's capable of coaching up these young guys. I just think he needs more of them in the building, more of them around long term, to really immerse themselves in his system.
I like where your head's at. I think that's very well said. Who would you say is the biggest winner thus far?
I mean, for me, I got to go with the Bears. Last year I had them. I really thought that they were going to contend for the North, and I mean, they were only a few one-score games away from, a wild card. So I don't think that they're far away from win-now mode. I think DJ Moore is an elite receiver on a long-term deal. DeAndre Swift is a functional back. Maybe they get it back in the draft. Their defense at most levels is talented. Obviously, their defensive line needs some help, but offensive line was their biggest need. They've addressed it with 2 huge trades for Joe Thuney from the Chiefs, the former Patriot as well. I think 5-time Super Bowl champion, 4 or 5-time. And now Jonah Jackson from the Rams. So they have basically 2 top 10 guards. I know they've used some picks in the last few years trying to protect Justin Fields, gotten some tackles in the draft here and there, but they mostly missed on those. I think if they draft a first or second round tackle and then put a lot of emphasis on the defensive line, they could seriously contend this year and still retain another $40-35 million in cap space.
I agree. I think their roster's set up very well for Caleb Williams, barring, like you said, maybe another offensive line move or two. Are you skeptical at all of Ben Johnson stepping into that leader of men role? Because, we know he can scheme up plays with the best of them, but is he prepared to lead a poverty-ridden team like the Bears?
I mean, it's arguable, but I think his coaching staff, his positional coaches look like excellent hires. I think he's built a really strong system. So I don't necessarily know that we'll be able to see how good of a leader of men he is, because I think he's got the right guys in the right places to kind of shield himself from that blowback if it doesn't work out.
Kind of like Dan Campbell did, if we're being honest, because he had a great defensive coordinator. Obviously, he had a great OC in Ben Johnson.
This is the first year that we're going to see how good of a coach Dan Campbell is.
100%.
And I think it's the same thing with Shoddy in Dallas. Like, I think his positional coaches have been great. If we go 10-7, I don't necessarily think Schottenheimer's a good coach. If we go 7-10, I don't necessarily think he's a bad coach. We just don't know how good any of these hires are until we see just them. The way we've seen Sean McDermott cycle through coordinators for years and years, and he still has a top defense. Like, it's really when those coaches put the headset on, they're calling some side of the game, and it works out. And Ben Johnson is a great offensive coordinator. I have no doubt that he'll get great results out of Caleb Williams. But I don't necessarily know how disciplined this Bears team will be, and I don't know how much of that blame is going to be put on him, even if they're undisciplined.
Tara, do you see Caleb Williams taking a step this year with an offensive-minded guy?
For sure. I think it's exactly what he needed. I think last year he had the weapons around him to do well. I think he just needed that coaching. And he has that this year, and as long as that's their main focus, like he's really trying to focus on Caleb, I think he's going to do a lot better.
Yeah, the offense was, extremely dysfunctional, specifically in the first half of most games last year. And, he'd pile up some stats in the third and fourth quarter when they were down by 30, in games like against the 49ers or, whoever it may be. But I'd be interested to see Caleb in a role where he has to sit in the pocket and dice up the defense. We know he can make plays outside of the pocket and ad-lib, if you will. But as far as standing in there and making the throws, we've seen comparisons. I think me and you have made the comparison of him to Shedeur, which I think Shedeur is a little bit less of the ad-libbing aspect and a way better pocket quarterback than him, which is why I think his success will translate to the NFL level. I'm very skeptical of the Bears this year. I'm not saying that they're going to be a bad team by any stretch, but it's going to be interesting to see for sure, is he competent enough? Does he have the poise to stay in the pocket and make those reads, or is it a lost cause? But
yeah, that's a fair point.